The first time Naomi Ellison held the keys to her new home, she thought she might cry. At 41 years old, the single mother of two had weathered storms most people never imagined. Divorce, job loss, nights when the only dinner she could afford was peanut butter sandwiches with apple slices on the side so her kids thought it was fun food. Years in a cramped two-bedroom apartment where paper-thin walls meant every argument. From the neighbors bled into their lives. But through it all, Naomi had refused to surrender. She had grown up in Birmingham, Alabama, in a neighborhood where people whispered that folks like us don't make it out. But Naomi wasn't built for small dreams. She had clawed her way through college, then earned a master's degree in public health, all while raising her children on her own. For years, she worked as an epidemiology researcher at the university hospital, quiet, steady, dedicated. She wasn't flashy, wasn't loud. She believed in hard work, in persistence, in keeping her head down until the finish line appeared. And finally, the finish line looked like this: a 3-bedroom brick house in Oak Valley Estates, a gated suburban community 20 minutes outside Birmingham. The kind of place with magnolia trees arching over sidewalks, manicured lawns, and cul-de-sacs where children rode bicycles without their parents panicking every 5 minutes. When Naomi turned the key that morning and stepped inside, she inhaled the smell of new beginnings, fresh paint, faint lemon polish, sunlight streaming through windows that were actually hers. Her son, Caleb, 16, dragged his duffel bag across the living room with a theatrical groan. "Do we seriously have to unpack all this today? My arms are dying." His little sister, Maya, 11, shot him a look of mock annoyance. "You don't even do real work. I carried more boxes than you." Naomi laughed, the sound bursting out before she could stop it. "Both of you hush. This is our first day in our first real home. You're going to remember this forever." She tilted her head back, letting the sunlight hit her face. "This," she whispered, almost to herself, "is what freedom feels like." The first day was chaos. Boxes stacked to the ceiling, furniture being dragged and rearranged. Maya sneaking cookies while pretending to organize the pantry. Neighbors slowed as they drove by, some waving politely, some staring just a little too long. One woman in particular caught Naomi's eye. She was tall, lean, with frosted blonde hair in a sharp bob, and oversized sunglasses perched on her nose even though the sun was setting. She wore a pressed button-up shirt tucked into khakis, and she clutched a leather binder against her chest like it was part of her body. The woman didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't even pretend. She simply stopped on the sidewalk across the street, stared at Naomi unloading a lamp from the car, scribbled something into her binder, and then walked briskly away. Naomi brushed it off. Every neighborhood had nosy people, right? But later, when she asked the moving crew to take the last box inside, she noticed the same woman standing 2 houses down, still watching. "Mom," Caleb muttered, leaning close. "That lady's giving us the creepiest side eye." "She's probably just curious," Naomi said, though her stomach gave a small twist. "Let her stare. She'll get used to us." Over the next 3 days, Naomi tried to let the unease melt away. She unpacked her grandmother's china, hung family photos in the hallway, and placed her favorite stack of medical journals on the bookshelf in the den. She even met 2 neighbors, a cheerful man named Victor Delgado, who immediately offered to lend her a ladder, and a soft-spoken woman named Darlene West, who dropped off blueberry muffins. But the blonde woman was always there, a shadow at the edge of Naomi's new life, standing at her window, hovering near the mailbox, pausing on her morning jog to jot notes into that ever-present binder. Finally, Naomi asked Victor casually, "Hey, do you know the lady with the short blonde hair across the street? She doesn't seem very welcoming." Victor sighed, his smile dimming. "Ah, you've met Patricia Whitmore. She's the HOA president. Has been for 15 years. She's particular. Particular how? Let's just say she thinks she runs Oak Valley Estates. The color of your blinds, the type of mailbox you use, even how long your trash bins sit outside. She notices everything. Don't take it personal." Naomi nodded, but inside she thought, that woman isn't particular. She's territorial. The confrontation came on a humid Sunday afternoon. Naomi had just returned from the grocery store, arms heavy with bags, keys dangling from her wrist. The air smelled of cut grass and gasoline from a neighbor's mower. She was humming under her breath, feeling almost settled. Then came the sharp click of heels on concrete. She looked up and saw Patricia striding toward her porch, binder tucked tight under her arm, lips pressed in a thin, unforgiving line. Naomi set the bags down on the top step. "Hello," she began politely. Patricia didn't return the greeting. Her voice cracked like a whip. "You need to leave this property." Naomi blinked. "Excuse me, this is Oak Valley Estates," Patricia said, enunciating every word like Naomi was a child who didn't understand English. "Homeowners only. You don't live here. You're trespassing." The grocery bag slipped slightly in Naomi's grip. For a split second she thought she'd misheard. But Patricia's eyes were ice. Her stance was firm. She meant every word. "I think you're mistaken," Naomi said, forcing her voice to stay calm. "I bought this house. I moved in last week. My kids and I." Patricia cut her off with a sharp wave of her hand. "That's not possible. I know who lives in this house. It isn't you. I'm calling security from upstairs." Maya's small voice drifted through the open window. "Mom, what's going on?" Naomi's chest tightened. Her daughter didn't need to hear this. "Not now. Not ever. I have my deed," Naomi said firmly. "My mortgage, my keys. I am the homeowner." Patricia's jaw tightened. "Forgery is common. People like you think they can just move in, pretend they belong. But I won't let Oak Valley Estates go downhill. Not while I'm HOA president." The words people like you sliced sharper than any blade. Naomi's pulse hammered. A wave of heat rose in her chest, anger, disbelief, humiliation, all colliding at once. She had worked her entire life for this moment, and now, on her own porch, she was being told she didn't belong. Her eyes darted across the street. Several neighbors had stepped onto their lawns, watching. One man paused mid-dog walk. Two teens on bikes slowed to listen. Everyone was waiting to see what Naomi would do. Patricia stood tall, binder clutched like a weapon. "You have until tonight to vacate," she said coldly, "or I will take further action." Naomi drew in a breath so deep it hurt. Then, very slowly, she picked up her grocery bags, unlocked her front door with deliberate precision, and turned back to Patricia. "This," Naomi said, her voice steady as stone, "is my house, and you will never tell me to leave my own home again." The door slammed shut. Behind her, Caleb's voice cracked with disbelief. "Mom, did that lady just tell you we don't live here?" Naomi closed her eyes, steadying her racing heart. "Yes," she whispered, "and I think this is only the beginning." The morning after Patricia Whitmore demanded that Naomi leave her own home, Oak Valley Estates felt different, not outwardly. The lawns were still perfectly trimmed. Sprinklers ticked in their rhythm, and joggers passed with earbuds in, lost in podcasts and playlists. But Naomi could feel it, the way glances lingered on her house a second too long, the way conversations hushed when she walked by. Word had spread. By Tuesday evening, it wasn't whispers anymore that Naomi was hauling cardboard boxes to the curb when she overheard to neighbors across the street. "She says the paperwork's fake. Something about forged signatures," one woman whispered, her hands buried in gardening gloves. "I don't know," her companion replied, squinting toward Naomi's house. "She seems respectable. She's got kids, for goodness sake." Patricia wouldn't lie, the first insisted. "She's been president of the HOA for years. She knows everything that happens here." Naomi's jaw tightened. She wanted to scream across the street that she had mortgage papers, a county file number, her name etched permanently on a deed, but she bit her tongue. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "Don't argue with gossip. Show them with your walk, not your words." Still, it hurt. The HOA meeting official summons came on Thursday. A folded letter slipped into Naomi's mailbox. "To the occupant at 431 Oak Valley Drive, you are hereby required to attend the Oak Valley Estates HOA board meeting this Saturday at 5 p.m. Concerns have been raised about your residency status, and a determination must be made for the protection of our community." Signed at the bottom, in neat cursive loops, Patricia Whitmore, HOA president. Naomi sat at the kitchen table, letter in hand, as Caleb and Maya looked on. "They're calling you to a meeting like you're on trial," Caleb muttered. Naomi exhaled slowly. That's exactly what it feels like. Mom, you don't have to go, Maya said. Her small hands clenched around her juice glass. You don't have to prove anything to her. Naomi reached over, stroking Maya's hair. Sweetheart, sometimes silence gives bullies power. If I don't show up, she'll spin it like I'm hiding something. I have to stand in that room and make them see the truth. Caleb frowned. And if they don't believe you? Naomi's eyes hardened. Then we make them. Saturday came heavy with Alabama humidity, the kind that clung to skin like a second layer. Naomi dressed carefully, navy blazer, pressed slacks, hair pulled neatly back. She wasn't walking into that clubhouse as a victim. She was walking in as the homeowner she was when she and the kids arrived. The HOA meeting was already buzzing. The community clubhouse smelled faintly of coffee and floor polish. Folding chairs were arranged in neat rows. At the front sat the board for members in pastel shirts, and Patricia at the center. Binder laid open like a judge's gavel. Every seat was filled. Neighbors leaned against the back wall, curious eyes darting toward Naomi. Patricia cleared her throat, her voice carrying through the microphone. Thank you for coming. We are here to address a matter of concern regarding 431 Oak Valley Drive. This individual, she gestured toward Naomi without looking at her, claims to be the lawful owner of the property, but several irregularities suggest otherwise. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Naomi rose from her chair, spine straight. My name is Naomi Allison. I am the owner of 431 Oak Valley Drive. Here is my documentation. She laid a folder on the table, closing papers, mortgage statements, a county-issued deed with her signature notarized. The board members leaned forward, whispering as they scanned the papers, but Patricia didn't even glance. She tapped her pen against the binder, eyes cold. Documents can be falsified, she said. I've seen scams before, and there are standards in this community. People can't just appear out of nowhere without proper vetting. The phrase hung in the air, without proper vetting. Naomi's chest burned. I went through the same process as every homeowner here. I worked, I saved, I signed, I paid. My name is recorded in the county register. Anyone can verify it. If you doubt my integrity, you can look it up yourself. A murmur swept the room. One of the board members, a stocky man in a green polo, cleared his throat. Patricia, maybe. We should, actually confirm with the county records before. Patricia's eyes snapped toward him, sharp as glass. I've already submitted an inquiry, but until confirmation comes back, we must act in the best interest of the neighborhood, and the neighborhood deserves stability. Naomi felt her temper flare. Stability or control? She steadied herself. With all due respect, Mrs. Whitmore, stability doesn't come from suspicion. It comes from neighbors treating each other with decency. I am not a threat. I am a mother providing a safe home for my children. Isn't that what every person here wants? For a brief second, silence stretched across the room. Naomi saw Victor in the back, nodding. Darlene squeezed her husband's hand. Even the man in the green polo shifted uncomfortably. But Patricia's voice sliced through again. We will let the authorities handle it. In the meantime, the board cannot recognize you as a lawful resident of Oak Valley Estates until further notice. You are prohibited from using community facilities or voting in HOA matters. It wasn't eviction, but it was humiliation, a deliberate branding of Naomi as an outsider. Naomi gathered her papers, heart pounding, and walked out without another word. Her children followed, heads high, but inside Naomi's chest, a storm raged. The knock on the door. Police came the very next week. It was a Thursday evening, the sun low and golden. Naomi was cooking dinner, catfish with collard greens, the scent filling the kitchen, when a knock rattled the front door. Caleb peeked through the blinds. His voice trembled. Cops, Mom. Naomi wiped her hands, forcing her breath steady. She opened the door to find two officers, one older, his salt and pepper hair glinting, and one younger, hand resting casually on his belt. Ma'am, the older said, we received a call from the HOA president. She claimed there may be an unauthorized occupant at this address. Naomi closed her eyes briefly, then stepped aside. Come in, I'll show you everything. At the dining table, She spread her folder once again. Deed, mortgage, utility bills. Already in her name. The younger officer scanned the papers, then looked up with raised eyebrows. This is all in order. Of course it is, Naomi said, her voice firm but shaking beneath. I own this home. My children live here. And I am tired of being harassed. From outside, Patricia's shrill voice pierced the evening. She's lying. It's a forgery. Don't believe her. Naomi marched to the doorway, pointing across the street. That's the woman who's been stalking me since the day I moved in. She stands outside my house, takes notes on me, and now she's wasting police resources because she doesn't like who bought this house. The older officer sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Ma'am, he called to Patricia. We've confirmed the paperwork. Miss Ellison is the lawful homeowner. There's no issue here. Patricia's face flushed crimson. You're making a mistake. She doesn't belong here. Maya appeared beside her mother, voice trembling with fury. Leave us alone. You're obsessed. The younger officer lowered his voice to Naomi. If this continues, you might want to consider filing a harassment report. That way there's a record. Naomi nodded slowly, the weight of her children's eyes on her. Yes, file it. She needs to know her intimidation stops here. The officers made notes, gave polite nods, and left. Across the street, Patricia slammed her door so hard the sound echoed down the block. Inside Naomi's chest, something shifted. She had come here to build a home. But maybe, just maybe, she was about to build something bigger, because Patricia wasn't just picking a fight with her. She was exposing something rotten at the heart of Oak Valley Estates. The next morning, Naomi drove downtown to the Madison County Courthouse. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than she realized. She wasn't just running errands. She was filing her first official complaint against Patricia Whitmore. The courthouse lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant and old paper. Behind the clerk's glass window, a woman in wire-rimmed glasses looked up as Naomi approached. Good morning. How can I help you? Naomi swallowed, steadying her voice. I need to file a harassment report against my homeowners association president. She's been targeting me and my children since the day we moved in. The clerk's eyebrows lifted, but she nodded. All right, we'll get you started. As Naomi filled out the paperwork, her pen moved with a clarity she hadn't felt in weeks. Each detail, the shouting in her driveway, the false claims at the HOA meeting, the police being called to her door, became ink on paper, transforming fear into evidence. When she slid the form back across the counter, the clerk stamped it firmly. There you go, ma'am. You've created a record. If the behavior continues, this strengthens your case. For the first time since moving to Oak Valley, Naomi felt the ground shift beneath her, not in Patricia's favor, but in hers. Neighbors began to seethe at afternoon. Naomi stood in her yard trimming rose bushes when Victor strolled by with his golden retriever. He paused, tugging at his baseball cap. Hey, Miss Ellison, he said, voice low. I saw what happened with the police last week. That woman's out of line. Naomi glanced up, surprised. Until now, most neighbors avoided eye contact. Thank you, Victor. It means a lot to hear someone say that. He nodded slowly. She's been running this neighborhood like her own little kingdom. For years, most folks just keep their heads down. But the way she went after you, that's different. Feels wrong. Naomi studied him, searching his eyes. So why doesn't anyone speak up? Victor sighed, giving his dog a pat. Because Patricia's the kind who keeps receipts on everybody. Trash cans out a day early. Garden hoses left uncoiled. Fences an inch too high. She'll fine you, shame you at meetings. Folks are scared of her. Naomi's lips pressed into a firm line. Well, I'm not scared anymore. And maybe if I stand up to her, others will, too. Victor's eyes softened. Careful, Miss Ellison. She doesn't lose gracefully. As he walked on, Naomi felt a quiet ember spark inside. For weeks, she'd been surviving. Now, she was preparing to fight. The sting of retaliation Pashuk struck. Back almost immediately. On Monday morning, Naomi opened her mailbox to find not one, but 3 violation notices. Unapproved paint color on shutters, though Naomi hadn't painted a thing. Trash bin left visible from the street. It had been tucked neatly behind the garage. Unauthorized vehicle parked in driveway her brother's car from a weekend visit. Closing parenthesis. Each notice carried a fine, each signed P. Whitmore. Naomi laughed bitterly. As she spread the papers across the kitchen table, Caleb scowled, fists tight. She's making it up. Mom, none of this is true. I know, Naomi said, and I'm keeping every single one. She's building my case for me. She pulled out a fresh binder and began cataloging every notice, every date, photographs of her yard and driveway disproving the claims. She taught Caleb and Maya how to use the family's old camcorder, instructing them to film whenever Patricia lingered near the property. It became routine, Naomi documenting her roses after pruning, Maya snapping pictures of the trash bins, Caleb keeping a log of suspicious drive-bys. What Patricia thought was pressure, Naomi turned into ammunition. The fracture in the board's next HOA meeting was standing room only. Word of Naomi's police clearance and Patricia's public tantrum had spread faster than magnolia blossoms in spring. Naomi arrived prepared, binder in hand, every page tabbed and dated. Patricia sat at the head table, lips pursed so tightly they nearly disappeared. We'll begin with old business, she said briskly, shuffling papers. But before she could launch into her agenda, the man in the green polo from last time, Dennis Miller, treasurer, cleared his throat. Actually, Patricia, he said, voice firm, I think we need to address the ongoing situation with 431 Oak Valley. A ripple went through the room. Naomi's pulse quickened. Patricia's smile was brittle. There's no situation. We are simply ensuring compliance. Dennis shook his head. No, there's been harassment. Fines issued without cause. Police called for no reason. That reflects poorly on this board. Murmurs of agreement fluttered through the crowd. Naomi seized the moment. Rising to her feet, she held up her binder. I have documentation of every violation notice I've received, complete with photographs and timestamps. Every single one is false. This isn't compliance. It's retaliation. She laid the binder on the table with a solid thump. The secretary, a weary woman in pearls, leaned forward curiously, flipping through the tabs. Her eyes widened. Patricia, some of these notices are signed on days you weren't even in town. The room buzzed louder. Patricia's face went pale, then flushed crimson. This is a smear campaign. She's twisting facts to make me look bad. Naomi kept her tone measured, calm. I don't need to twist anything. The evidence speaks for itself. Dennis looked out at the room. I move that we suspend enforcement actions against Miss Ellison until the county completes its records check, and that this board review the president's conduct. For the first time, Patricia's power cracked. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it passed. Cheers broke out in the back of the room. Naomi exhaled, her children squeezing her hands tight. Across the table, Patricia sat rigid, her knuckles white. Around her pen, her kingdom was slipping, and everyone could see it. The counterattack paddock didn't retreat quietly. She doubled down. 2 days later, anonymous flyers appeared on doorsteps around Oak Valley. Did you know our new neighbor has no local references? Did you know she moved in under suspicious financial circumstances? Protect our community from frauds and strangers. No name was attached, but everyone knew. Naomi found her copy crumpled on the porch and handed it to Caleb. Add it to the binder. Maya frowned. Why is she so obsessed, Mom? What does she get out of this? Naomi crouched, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. Some people mistake control for safety. Patricia built her life around controlling this neighborhood, and I'm the first person who told her no. Maya's small jaw set stubbornly. Then we'll keep saying no. Naomi hugged her tight, a swell of pride filling her chest. Seeds of change. Be the following week, something remarkable happened. Darlene from down the block knocked on Naomi's door, holding a plate of pecan pie. Her husband hovered behind, sheepish. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, Darlene said, for not speaking up sooner. Patricia scared all of us into silence. But after that last meeting, I think you're right. She's gone too far. Naomi blinked, warmth rising in her chest. Thank you. That means more than you know. Soon after, other neighbors began stopping by. Victor offered to testify about Patricia's long history of intimidation. A young couple shared stories of fines for overgrown grass when they were away visiting family. Piece by piece, Patricia's full weight of power cracked. What once had been whispered behind closed doors was now spoken aloud, and Naomi's courage had opened the floodgates. The warning, but Patricia wasn't finished. Late one night, Naomi heard footsteps crunch across her lawn. She peeked through the blinds to see a figure, Patricia, clutching her phone. Flashlight beam dancing across Naomi's garden. Caleb, awakened by the noise, grabbed the camcorder. "Got her," he whispered, recording as Patricia bent over the mailbox, snapping photos of nothing in particular. Naomi's stomach knotted, but her resolve was steel. She opened the front door, voice ringing into the night. "Patricia, you are trespassing. I am recording you. If you don't leave, I'll call the police again." Patricia froze in the beam of the porch light, her face a mask of fury and desperation. For a heartbeat, she seemed about to lunge forward. Then, with a sharp pivot, she stalked back across the street. Naomi's heart hammered, but she smiled. At Caleb, "That's evidence. Keep the tape safe." For the first time, Patricia looked less like a queen on her throne and more like a desperate woman whose grip was slipping. The air in Oak Valley grew tense as summer deepened. Lawns were trimmed, porches swept, but behind every curtain people whispered about Patricia, about Naomi, about the battle that had turned their quiet subdivision into a war zone. Naomi felt the weight of eyes on her every time she walked the block. Yet instead of fear, she carried herself taller. Each step was proof that Patricia hadn't broken her, and Patricia knew it. The breaking point, it was the 4th of July picnic, the biggest event on Oak Valley's calendar. For years, Patricia orchestrated it like a royal gala, color-coded. Flyers, timed contests, a speech about community values before the fireworks. This year, Naomi almost stayed home, but Caleb urged her to go. "Mom, you've already stood up to her in meetings. If you hide now, she wins." So Naomi baked a double batch of peach cobbler and carried it to the park. Patricia was already there, barking orders at volunteers, clipboard in hand. Her red, white, and blue scarf fluttered like a battle standard. When she spotted Naomi, her face stiffened. "Well, look who decided to grace us," she sneered loudly, loud enough for nearby families to hear. "Didn't realize frauds were invited." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Naomi felt heat rush to her face but forced her voice steady. "I'm here because this is my neighborhood too, and I brought cobbler, something sweet, to balance out the bitterness." Laughter broke out, nervous but real. Patricia's cheeks flushed crimson. During the pie contest, Patricia accidentally knocked Naomi's cobbler tray from the table, sending it splattering into the grass. Children cried, adults muttered, and Caleb, quick as lightning, lifted the camcorder. He caught every second. Naomi locked eyes with Patricia, calm and unflinching. "That was petty, and it's the last time you'll get away with it." The gathering stormed. Next morning, Naomi emailed the footage to Dennis, the treasurer, along with a growing compilation of Patricia's violations, the false fines, the flyers, the midnight trespassing. By then, Naomi's binder had grown so thick it barely shut. Dennis called her that evening. "Naomi, you've given us enough to move forward. The board is calling an emergency meeting." "Patricia won't see it coming." Naomi exhaled, gripping the phone tighter. "It's time." The emergency meeting 2 nights later. The HOA clubhouse overflowed. Word had spread. Something big was happening. Neighbors packed the folding chairs, whispers swirling like wind before a storm. Patricia strutted in late, as if to remind everyone whose show this was. She sat at the head of the table, adjusting her pearls. Dennis cleared his throat. "We're here to discuss ongoing concerns regarding the conduct of our president, Mrs. Whitmore." Patricia scoffed. "Conduct? My conduct is flawless, unlike some people here who..." But Dennis cut her off. "We've received evidence of harassment, falsified violation notices, and property trespass." Naomi rose, binder in hand. She laid it on the table. Pages fanned out like a prosecutor presenting to a jury. Every claim is documented. Photos, timestamps, video, and now, footage from last week's picnic. She nodded to Caleb, who played the recording. On the small screen, Patricia's act of sabotage replayed for all to see. The deliberate swipe, the tray crashing, Patricia's triumphant smirk. The room erupted, gasps, whispers. Someone muttering, "Shameful." Patricia leapt to her feet. "This is absurd. She's manipulating all of you." But her voice trembled. The secretary, usually Patricia's closest ally, spoke coldly. "I've served on this board for 8 years. I've defended you, Patricia. But this," she gestured toward the screen, "this is indefensible." Dennis slammed his gavel. Motion to remove Patricia Whitmore as president of the Oak Valley Homeowners Association. Effective immediately. The vote was swift, overwhelming. Patricia's hands shook as the tally was read. For the first time in decades, she wasn't in control. Her reign had ended. The collapse of Patricia stormed out of the clubhouse, muttering threats of lawsuits and vengeance. But her words sounded hollow, like echoes in an empty hall. Neighbors followed Naomi instead. Darlene hugged her, tears brimming. Victor clapped Caleb's shoulder proudly. Maya twirled, laughing. "We won, Mommy." Naomi stood at the center of it all, overwhelmed but steady. For months, Patricia had painted her as an intruder. Tonight, the neighborhood had chosen her as one of their own. The aftermath days that followed were strange. Without Patricia's daily patrols, Oak Valley felt lighter, freer. Lawns still got mowed, mailboxes still stood straight. But the era of constant surveillance was gone. Naomi was voted onto the HOA board in Patricia's place, not because she wanted power, but because neighbors trusted her to wield it fairly. Her first motion was simple: no fines without evidence, and no intimidation in the name of community standards. It passed unanimously. Patricia's final act weeks later, Naomi spotted Patricia one last time. She was leaving her house, cardboard boxes piled in the back of a moving van. Patricia's face was pale, drawn tight. She caught Naomi watching, and, for a flicker of a moment, her mask cracked. "Are you happy now?" she spat. Naomi's voice was quiet, firm. "I'm not happy you lost, Patricia. I'm happy the neighborhood is free." Patricia sneered, but there was no venom left, only exhaustion. Without another word, she climbed into her car and drove away, leaving Oak Valley behind. A new beginning on the first crisp evening of fall. Naomi sat on her porch swing, watching Maya chase fireflies while Caleb shot hoops with Victor's grandson. The street glowed with porch lights, laughter carrying through the night. A year ago, she'd feared she'd made the worst mistake of her life moving here. Now, she knew it was the best. Not because Oak Valley was perfect, it wasn't, but because she had proven something vital. No bully, no matter how entrenched, was invincible. Naomi had come to Oak Valley as an outsider. She stayed because she became part of the story. Not Patricia's story of fear, but her own story of courage.